Well, thank you. I would like to call us to order, and I would first like to say, let's all give a rousing round of applause, shout outs, whatever you'd like to do. Oh, that was a great way to start the day. And I feel a little cheery after listening to President Monks and President Smith. And most importantly, even though there can only be one winner in each category, we know that everybody out there working hard each and every day, from our students to staff to our faculty to our community partners, you're all winners in our eyes. And we simply put, we could not do this job without you. So thank you. It may be a rainy and stormy day here across Tennessee, but the sun is shining at the Tennessee Board of Regents. So thank you all very much. With that, I would also like to thank Chris Perkins and Matthew Gann and all of the folks behind the scenes who put this incredible program together. This was an awful lot of work, but I know you do it as a labor of love, and we are grateful to you all. So thank you. With that, let's officially call this meeting to order and get down to a little business. And I will call on Sandra Mason to call the roll for us, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I call the roll, if the regents will simultaneously, if you will answer these two questions. One is, can you hear and speak with others participating in the meeting? And then secondly, if you are alone in the room or if someone's with you. If you answer to both questions, if the answer to your questions is yes, then you may simply answer yes to both questions when I call your name. Anyone who is not alone should identify any other person in the room with you. So when I call your name, if you will, answer those two questions. Governor Lee, Regent Apple.
I'm here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. Regent Burdine.
I'm here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. Regent Duckett.
I'm here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. Regent George.
Here, yes to both questions.
Thank you. Regent Gill.
I am here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. Regent Goldsmith.
Here, yes to both questions.
Thank you. Regent Green. You're muted, Regent Green. Regent Green. Okay.
I am here and yes to both questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Great.
Okay,
Great.
good.
Thank you.
Regent Hatch.
I'm here and yes to both questions.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hatcher.
I'm here and yes to both questions.
Thank you, sir. Regent House.
I am here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. Regent McEllier.
Here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. And Regent Powers.
Here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. And Regent Reed.
I'm here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. Vice Chair Reynolds.
I am here and yes to both.
Thank you. Commissioner Schwinn. She had a previous commitment and not able to be with us today. Regent Varlin.
I'm here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. And Regent Womp. I think he was on. There he is. What, Regent Womp?
Yeah, here. I'm just slow to get off of mute.
That's okay.
But I'm here and yes to both questions.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And Regent White. He was going to have to drop off for something. And let me look to see if he's here. Regent White, you show that you're muted. All right. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. You guys, we have to do one more bit of housekeeping before we can move into our agenda, and that's to affirm the necessity that we meet electronically today, of course, in keeping with the executive orders related to the pandemic and COVID-19. We are affirming that the matters that we are considering today will require timely action, and that this is our most practical way to find that quorum to meet safely and to undertake our business. So with that, may I have a motion to that effect, please?
So
Mrs.
moved.
Garland, I'll
So-
second.
Okay, I think I heard Miles on the motion
That's correct.
and Varlin on the second. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, Sandra, let's call on you once again for a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Tuckett,
Aye.
Regent George,
Aye.
Regent Gill. Regent Gill, can you hear me? Regent Gill. Regent Goldsmith.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, Regent Gill. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Aye.
Thank you. Regent Goldsmith,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Aye.
Regent McElliey,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Lomp.
Aye.
Thank you. Regent White. Motion carries.
Thank you all very much for taking care of that important piece of business. I want to welcome any media or guests who might have joined us this morning. As you all know, once again, consistent with the way we've been operating these past few months, we are being live streamed on the TDR website. And in addition, this will be archived and posted on the website as well. So to any guests or media, thank you for being with us. Let's turn to our business now. And with that, you have received the minutes from our last quarterly meeting of December 10, 2020. Does anyone have any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved. It Regent Green.
Regent Green, and I think I missed another voice. Would you like to do the second?
That's Miles. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Regent Burdine. So any discussion? If not, and we all know this is a little cumbersome, but since we are meeting electronically, we will need another roll call vote. Sandra?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Tuckett,
Aye.
Regent George,
Aye.
Regent Gill, Regent Gill.
Aye.
Thank you. Regent Goldsmith,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Aye.
Regent McElliey,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Lomp,
Aye.
Regent White. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Chancellor, I'm coming to you now to present your interim report, once again, which has been in the board packet of the actions you have taken since the last time we convened.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. The interim action report was included in the materials made available to all board members prior to the meeting today. And this report does constitute a record of business transacted by the Office of the Chancellor since the previous quarterly meeting of the board. And Madam Chair, pending any questions, I recommend the board's approval of the report of interim action.
Are there any questions from board members for the Chancellor with regard to anything in the interim report? If not, we will entertain a motion to approve the interim report.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Second. Apple.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Any further discussion? If not, Sandra, we're going to keep you busy here this morning. Would you call the roll again, please?
Thank you. Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Duckett,
Aye.
Regent George,
Aye.
Regent Gill, Regent Gill. Would you unmute one more time? Regent Gill. Regent Goldsmith,
Aye.
Regent Gill, are you on now?
Yeah, aye.
Thank you. Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Aye.
Regent McElliey,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Womp.
Aye.
Thank you. And Regent White. Motion carries, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Regent Hatch, I'd like to call on you to seek approval of the minutes from your March 9 Audit Committee meeting, please, sir.
Thanks, Vice Chair Reynolds. The Audit Committee met in regular session on March the 9th, 2021 to review and recommend approval of the following items: the Comptroller internal and miscellaneous audit reports, the TBR system risk assessment process, the system-wide internal audit updates, the university LGI updates, and fiscal year 2021 internal audit plan revisions. As committee chair, I move that the board approve the report of the March 9, 2021 meeting of the Audit Committee as presented.
We have a motion from the committee chair. May we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you, Regent Burdine. So is there any discussion on the business conducted by the Audit Committee from earlier this month? If not, we have our motion and second. So Sandra, once again, let's seek approval from the board.
Thank you. Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Duckett,
Aye.
Regent George,
Aye.
Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Aye.
Regent McElliey,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Womp,
Aye.
Regent White. Motion carries, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Let's move into new business now. We have a consent agenda with 2 items, both of which we were briefed on at our committee chairs meeting on March 9. That's one, to review and approve revisions to our TBR policy regarding admission at the community college. And the second is to review and consider faculty emeritus recommendations for this 2020-2021 school year. Russ or Heidi, anything to add on that? And it looks like, Brian, we can take both of these together in one motion since it is the consent agenda.
I agreed, Vice Chair.
Perfect. Thank you. I think the board has all the technicolor from our previous meeting, but Heidi or Russ, anything to add?
Vice Chair Reynolds, I have nothing to add. I would defer to Dr. Lemming in case she does, though.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Dr. Deaton or Dr. Lemming from the board? If not, I would like to seek a motion to approve the consent agenda today, please, with both items in the same motion.
Regent Barlin, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Regent Hatch, second.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Hearing none, One more time, team. Roll call vote for approval of our consent agenda. Ms. Mason?
Thank you. We've got a few more to go.
Okay.
Today.
We're not, we get to take a little rest for a minute.
We do. Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Duckett,
Aye.
Regent George,
Aye.
Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher,
Aye.
Regent McElliey,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Thank you. And Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Wamp.
Aye.
Thank you. And Regent White. He's still in his meeting. Motion carries, Madam Chair.
Thank you all very much. We are going to stay in new business with 5 really excellent informational reports for us this morning. And I invite the board, please, to chime in, ask questions. You're going to be getting a lot of good information. Feel free to raise your hand on the magic little toolbar here, or just chime in when something comes up. But I do hope this becomes a dialogue along the way as well. And first up for us, with an external affairs update, is a legislative report from Dr. McCormick. And once again, Dr. McCormick, to you and your team, well done on the SOAR Awards presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Vice Chair Reynolds, thank you so much for that. We are truly proud of our team. They have worked so hard and put forth so much effort, and they're wonderful. I have more to say about that, by the way, at the end of this presentation. So, to Vice Chancellor Reynolds, members of the board, Chancellor, and respected colleagues, as always in June, this board will receive a full report on the legislative session upon the 2021 adjournment. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. This morning, I will provide an external affairs update on the legislative matters that our Government Relations Department is currently monitoring. Folks, I need to tell you something. I got out of order on the calendar and I just ran into this room. So that is why I'm out of breath. I apologize so much. Okay. The legislative matters that our Government Relations Department is currently monitoring are very wide and vast. This is a mid-session update, if you will. The General Assembly is still in session. The status of bills is changing daily. However, I want to touch on some areas of issue that are receiving much attention. This one is exciting. One of the joys of government relations process is getting to be among the first to officially welcome new regents to our board. And this is an exciting day because, as you can see, Regent Mark George and Regent Nisha Powers were both confirmed yesterday with Senate Resolution 17 and 18. They spoke very eloquently and were voted on by the Senate Education Committee. So we expect the full Senate to pass these 2 resolutions. So congratulations to our new regents.
Yay! They did a great job, as you said. It was great to watch.
They really did, and they really did speak eloquently, and it went very smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
This being a mid-session update, the issues arising are amplified by the COVID-19 pandemic, as you know. We see bills that follow vaccinations, economic support for individuals affected directly by disease and economically affected by workplace closures and shifts in commerce. There also are bills about minimum wage increases and also emergency powers of the executive branch, local, state, and federal. Springing off the point of emergency powers, we're seeing a number of bills that, in some form or other, speak to the functions and scope of authority of state government. Whether inspired by the pandemic circumstances or not, some of the emergency powers issues being discussed are specifically seeking to address checks and balances between the state executive branch and the General Assembly in times of emergency. There are also multiple bills related to the UAPA Act that we are watching, and there's a bill this year that would set some limits on naming public facilities after a public official that is still in office. And you may have recently heard about the Governor's Transparency and Foreign Investment Act. This bill would prompt a thorough review of any and all contracts between higher ed institutions and foreign entities. And then, as always, we monitor all firearm legislation to be aware of any possible changes to the permission of individuals to go armed on a campus and what changes may occur in how our campuses' law enforcement handle these things. And then there are multiple bills in that category that the most that talked about, of course, the governor's permitless or constitutional carry bill passed the Senate last week and is now moving toward the House floor. And as written, this bill will not require any changes to current campus gun carry policy. And perhaps one of the most exciting categories that our government relations team is watching this year is that of bills filed to strengthen our offerings for Tennessee's high school students to help them work toward and sometimes fully earn credentials while still in high school. We know that our middle colleges across the state are doing fabulous work in standing up some of the best partnerships between higher ed and K-12. We also know that dual enrollment works. It sparks some of our most successful students and keeps so many of them in Tennessee and in their home communities to at least complete a first degree or credential with which they can become employed and fuel the economy. And then this year, there is a bill to increase the middle college scholarship, a bill to increase dual enrollment grant funding, and in fact, a bill to seeking to fully fund dual enrollment courses for students. And we are excited about these prospects and are working to see some practical enhancements come to fruition. On Tuesday, March 23rd, the House Higher Ed Committee collectively considered 8 bills, including the issues I just mentioned, related to the Tennessee Education Lottery and the financial aid that it fuels. One of those was taken off notice, or basically it was set aside by the sponsor, and that was House Bill 1340 by Representative Ogles regarding law enforcement training academy students as recipients of Reconnect. The 7 bills remaining on the lottery calendar are listed above. Prior to that portion of the subcommittee meeting, TSAC's representative was invited to give a presentation on the funding mechanisms and projections for how to eventually make Tennessee Promise self-sufficient. It was recommended that the collective expenditures of new or additional lottery money for financial aid proposals should stay within the range of $3 to $5 million. After that presentation, 5 of the 7 calendared bills were passed to the full House Education Administration Committee. 3 of those 5 bills were proposals made by TSAC just before the pandemic made legislation basically impractical last year. We now see those as House Bill 139 to help foster children, House Bill 1150 to support our veterans, and House Bill 646, which benefits homeschool graduates. The other 2 bills that passed on Tuesday were House Bill 542 and 471. House Bill 542 is the 25% increase in the per semester middle college scholarship. So it moved it from $1,000 to $1,250. So that is very exciting for many young people. House Bill 471 is a bill to allow dual enrollment grants to be accessible by students of More Tech. This is a proprietary career college in Memphis, and More Tech honestly directly competes with our Tcat Memphis. So we're working hard to support our Tcat Memphis on this particular issue. And the 2 bills that did not immediately pass out of Tuesday's subcommittee hearing were House Bill 711 and House Bill 752. House Bill 711 would allow HOPE eligibility for students participating in Western Governors University. It was rolled till next year. House Bill 752, which could significantly enhance dual enrollment funding in Tennessee, was rolled for 1 week. and that is pending further discussion and efforts regarding the size of the fiscal note. So I believe the sponsor of the bill expects us to work with THEC and TSAC to try to work through that. And we are still working hard on that bill, as are many of our presidents, and we're working with the sponsors and committee members. Okay. Vice Chair Reynolds, this has been our brief mid-session general overview, but our team is working hard in what are still very unique circumstances. And as I said in the beginning, we will likely have to have much to report by the June board meeting. I want to specifically recognize our two government relations interns, Brittany Rowell and Sasha Hitachi Kazaya, who work hard with our team and are top-notch star students at their colleges. Brittany is finishing a quadruple major associate degree at Northeast State this semester, is also president of Phi Theta Kappa, and is also an All-American scholar. Sasha just graduated from Chattanooga State, and we are so very proud of her as well. They're doing a great job for us, and thank President Bullock and President Ashford for sharing them with us. I also cannot forget the tireless work of Kristen Beloff and Chuck Grimes. I thank their families so much for their late night sacrifice. And so unless there are any questions, Vice Chair Reynolds, I have one more item that I would like to share with the board.
Let's see if there are any board questions for you on this. And to Brittany and Sasha, of course they're doing a great job. They're TBR graduates. So we're just glad to have them on the team helping us this year. So anything from the board for Kim on the legislative update?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, this is Greg Tcat. Could you, Kim, clarify for me on the bill related to naming of public buildings? What are they trying to address and or clarify with it?
Sure. Yes, Regent Duckett. And I can give you an overview of it. And our General Counsel, Brian Lapps, may want to weigh in on this. But in essence, this is a bill to prohibit naming buildings after currently sitting legislators.
Okay.
And then a certain period of time after they have left office.
Okay, that's fine. And I guess my other item deals with the dual enrollment, and I would just amplify what Kim has indicated as it relates to Mortec being a direct competitor of ours, but at the same time, I agree we need to work to do whatever we can to prevent that bill from being approved. But I think it's important that we realize that Mortec has done what I consider a sufficient job of having, again, what I will call a politically active board, which heightens and increases the work that Kim and others will need to do to try to make sure that we can defeat this measure.
Kim, could I just address one of Regent Duckett's the first question regarding the naming of state buildings? I think it's actually last I saw, was a little broader than just sitting legislators. I think the target was a issue regarding sitting legislators, which is the issue trying to be addressed. But I think it would, for example, prohibit naming something after Dr. Tidings used with state money. But if, say, for example, people wanted to put in private money to name a building after Dr. Tidings when she retires, that would be fine, which I hope is a long time away. I think that would be fine. So it's really, I think, a perceived political abuse, Regent Duckett, that is being addressed there.
Okay. And I was going to clarify that to say if and when she retires.
That's right.
Anything else for Dr. McCormick? All right, you've got one additional item.
I do, Vice Chair. Under the leadership of Associate Vice Chancellor Matthew Gann, I am pleased to announce that our marketing and digital strategy team has performed exceedingly well in the National Council for Marketing and Public Relations Awards. Our team has won silver for the Rave Alerts, bronze for the annual report for Career Starts Here, and gold for Best in Video Series for My Career Started, and we're ready when you're ready. Don't put it off the future. Ladies and gentlemen, these medals come from competing with community and technical colleges across the entire country. TBR is #1 in the nation, and I could not be more proud of this team.
More applause this morning.
I'm so proud of them.
Oh.
And Vice Chair Reynolds, unless there are further questions, I promise you next time I will be mindful of the agenda and the schedule. And that concludes my report.
No, I'm sorry we caught you by surprise. So you were prepared.
I haven't moved that fast in a very long time.
Oh, I love it. No, well done. And to Matthew, Dan, wherever you are on this call, thank you to you and the team for all you do. Chancellor, did you want to add anything?
Just to concur with what you're saying, we could not be more proud of the work that's being done by both our legislative group, which, as you know, right now, this is their most trying time. Their feet are to the fire. The next few weeks will be even more hectic as things change very quickly at the legislature. But to Matthew and the group, congratulations to each of you. You are absolutely some of the brightest stars in this country. And we're just so honored that you work for the Tennessee Board of Regents.
Thank you. Thanks again, Dr. McCormick. And let's move to our state budget update from Vice Chancellor Gibbs.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I want to give you just a brief update this morning of the current status of the proposed state budget. As you all recall, the state budget was introduced back in February by the governor, February the 8th. Since that time, TBR has conducted budget hearings in front of the House Finance, Ways and Means Committee, as well as the Senate Education Committee. Currently, the appropriations bill amendment cutoff dates for the House was on March 15th, and for the Senate, it will be April 1st. When we put the budget update on the agenda, we thought that perhaps the governor's amended budget recommendations might have been released by now, but of course they haven't been released at this point. However, since the release of the governor's original budget proposal, we've continued to have discussions with administration about various items that, if included in the amended budget, I think would be exciting for our system. But at this point, we'll just have to wait and see. When the budget is amended and the recommendations are released, we'll communicate to you any changes recommended for our system. So on the next slide, I have the recommended changes in TBR state appropriations for next fiscal year, the 21-22 fiscal year, and these are the recurring changes. The first item is the outcome formula adjustments. Our system as a whole is set to gain about $3 million. The next column reflects the outcomes funding. This is our portion of the new state outcomes appropriation that was included in the governor's budget. That would be about $11.6 million. And then, of course, there were some funding for salary increases this year as well. And for our entire system, that's about $13.5 million. And then there was some recurring funding included for the competency-based education initiative, $400,000, and also for the correctional education investment program, and that was about $222,000. All total, about $28.7 million in recurring appropriations recommended for us next year. The next slide reflects the non-recurring appropriations that have been recommended. The competency-based education, $350,000. Morristown, new building that they are constructing there, equipment for that building of about $3.6 million. And then again, the correctional education investment, about $650,000. So the next slide will reflect the grand totals. So both recurring and non-recurring, we're looking at almost $33.4 million recommended in operating appropriations for our system. The next slide will then reflect, this just shows the growth that's projected for next year compared to existing appropriations. Next, we'll take a look at capital outlay and maintenance recommendations. Here we recommended for almost $31 million in capital maintenance funding. That reflects about 22 projects across the state, much needed projects. The capital outlay recommendation, Columbia State Community College was awarded almost $27 million for the Williamson County Art and Technology Building. And again, that building also will house programs for Tcat Dixon as well. As far as upcoming budget events, again, the administration amendment, we maybe anticipate that to be somewhere around the first week of April. Again, this is all still fluid at this point. And then there'll be action by the Senate and House Finance Committees. And again, that could be around mid-April. And then there'll be action by the full House and Senate, and the budget transmitted on to the governor. And then the governor would act on it sometime probably late April or May. But that's the timeline for now. Madam Vice Chair, with that completes my report. And if there are any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them.
Comments or questions for Danny this morning? Okay. Well, we will hope for other news with the supplemental coming up, and appreciate you keeping us posted. So, Chancellor, anything on the budget from your end?
Again, just to kind of echo what Danny was saying, we are really encouraged about the supplemental budget. The information that we've been asked for, we've gotten indication that it's going to be very positive news that we're going to be hearing out of that supplemental. So as soon as we do, we will update each of you on that, because it will be, if what they're talking about is what comes to fruition, I call it game changing for us. So we're pretty excited about that. Thanks to Danny again, to him and his team. As you can imagine, this is also one of their busy seasons, keeping up with all of this. So we're very appreciative to the great job that they're doing.
Well said. Thank you. Well, here comes somebody else who always has good news. Another ray of sunshine, Dr. Perrier, with an update on all the activity at the Center for Workforce Development. How are you this morning?
I am great. Thank you so much, Madam Vice Chair, and welcome all of you. We do have some good news to share, and it is my pleasure to update you on what the Center for Workforce Development and our campuses have been doing to strengthen Tennessee's workforce, which is critical to all of our success. The agenda is rather short, so I'm going to make very brief comments about some really exciting projects going on. So the next one, please. As you all know, that the Center for Workforce Development oversees apprenticeship programs, correctional workforce training. We also work with the state ECD office and multiple state agencies, as well as working with our campuses. So today's report will just sort of summarize all of those things. I'm happy to report that Nathan Garrett, who is the interim president at Mcminnville and also continues to oversee our apprenticeship program, is staying busy. We're keeping him out of trouble. He's currently working on 2 grants. One with the Department of Labor, local here, but it is a federal grant. It's Apprenticeship Expansion, Equity, and Innovation. We hope to know more about this. The deadline for the grant is in April, so keep your fingers crossed. I hope in June I can say that we've gotten this. What's special about this grant, and why we're so interested in it, is that it will support tuition, not just for credit programs, but also for non-credit workforce programs. So I think that's a nice twist to what we hope to see. The second grant that he is working on is with the Tennessee Department of Transportation, and this would be to start an apprenticeship program with highway construction maintenance folks across the state. So the plan is, with this particular goal or grant, I should say, is to have one in each section of the state and help to produce maintenance employees for TDOT. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. One of the exciting things that Nathan has spent a lot of time on lately is with the West Tennessee Home Builders Association and making sure that apprenticeship program that I've mentioned before is up and running. I'm happy to report that the United States Department of Labor sponsorship was approved for the carpentry apprenticeship program. The related technical education for this program will be done by Tcat Memphis. The goal is to start that in July, and there's two really important parts of this. One is to make sure that we don't want to put pressure on President Rayner, but to make sure this goes very well, because we would like to take this statewide with all of the construction industries across that state, and then also expand that to include HVAC, also electrical, different areas of the construction industry. So we're very excited about that particular grant. And he continues to work with all of our campuses to maintain the apprenticeship programs and make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. So shout out to Nathan. The next topic is on the correctional workforce training programs. Lauren Salina oversees that, and she does a great job with this project, and it is some days changing from 8 to 4. The TBR's initiative from this governor's initiative was to be in 9 of the 10 state-run facilities. We are in 9 of those facilities. The enrollment as of last week was 292 community colleges and Tcat students. So I think that's a great number, as this program is still growing. Tcat Dixon has had an exciting month. They have graduated 11 students from the building trade program at the Turney Center, and they're anticipating 2 more graduates in this program by the end of April. Also in this program, students are eligible to sit for the National Center for Construction Education and Research certificates. And I'm happy to report that students have sat for those exams, and they have earned 22 of these certificates. So that's a great achievement. I will also say that Northeast State has started their bridge program at the Northeast Correctional Center, and they will start their full cohort in May. With their program, TBR has 5 associate programs with 3 community colleges. We have 13 Tcat programs in the prison system, with 6 campuses being involved. So we are on task. We're doing what the original goal was for, and we're excited. And Lauren is working very hard every day on that. She is working with TBR's marketing team to produce the March newsletter that will come out any day now, so folks will be able to keep up to date on what's happening with the prison initiative. Next on the slide, you see Electric Vehicle Task Force. We work with the State Department of ECD, and they have developed a state agency task force to discuss the electric battery car industry training needs here in Tennessee. The center and several different departments at TBR are very active on this committee. The needs for the workforce range anywhere from automotive manufacturing, battery manufacturing, artificial intelligence, robotics, logistics, etc. We've got the pathways coordinators involved. We've got folks from academics, the workforce, and apprenticeships to stay up to date on this. We also have a little backdoor committee that we're working on to make sure that we are all doing everything we can to make sure that things are moving. I'm happy to say that what we're finding a lot of is that we've got bits and pieces of the programs, and it's packaging those programs, which will be vital with industry's input to make sure that we're able to train not only credit side, but also workforce side, but make sure that 2 go hand in hand. So we're excited about that. And speaking of electric batteries, I want to give another shout out to Tcat Dixon. They were instrumental in helping to land Project Hertz. It's also known as Microvest Company, which will be operating in Montgomery County. This company is the global next generation battery technology for commercial vehicles. The project was announced in February, and Dr. Summers and her team has been working with this company in recruiting and with state ECD. I will tell you that this project started in 2019 and just now closed, so it does take a while. Also in the automotive industry area, Tcat Elizabethan has just signed a very large training grant with Subaru. So we're excited about those things that are going on. We know the importance of automotive is to this state. Tennessee is the #1 in the Southeast for automotive employment. So we're trying to make sure that our campuses are making sure we help keep that ranking. Next slide. Okay, next I get to talk about some of the campus success stories, which is always fun. I'll first say that we are still working with the state ECD office on 4 major projects right now. We've got 2 in West Tennessee, 2 in Middle Tennessee that are quite active. So we are happy to know that industry is still looking at Tennessee and still wanting to come here. While I can't share a lot about those 4 projects due to the confidentiality and the non-compete, I can tell you that when a campus gets that call, either from their local chamber, their industrial board, or the state ECD office, we know that it is going to be presentations, it's going to be data, it's going to be more presentations, it's going to be tours, it's going to be answering questions. It is a lot of work. And as I mentioned with Project Hertz, starting in 2019 and it's 2021 before the 2 come together. But truly, the campuses are excited when they can help to land a huge project for their community and for the good of the state. So a shout out to all those campuses that work on those projects, and that's every single one of our campuses. I know that that's a good thing to say, but a semi-quote from Jeff Sis says it's worth all of the effort when you get that landing job and you know that it's coming. And my grandmother would have said it's just like kissing a bunch of toads to find that special person in your life. But we'll go with Jeff's quote too. Next, we are going to talk about some specific campus success stories. You know, COVID has changed everything. I think I'm going to get that tattooed somewhere. But the thing to remember is that Tennessee's workforce has done very well under COVID. Yes, we've had spikes in unemployment. A lot of things have happened, but overall, I think the governor's been talking and about how that we've fared pretty well compared to many of our neighbors. What I see that has been very instrumental is that several companies have repurposed employees, that have helped to upscale employees, and that the citizens have been willing to be retrained and go into a totally different field. We've got 2 stories to share with you that I think are important. Tcat Knoxville was contacted by the Blount County Blount Memorial Hospital administration about training their nurse aides and other support staff to become licensed practical nurses. And I can tell you that from experience, starting a practical nursing program and trying to start an instructional service center are 2 difficult tasks, but without COVID. But with COVID, President Cheney and her team were able to do that. They have their first cohort that has started with 23 seats filled. That's how many they wanted. All of the seats were filled. The students are going to school when they get off of work. They'll also do their clinical at the hospital. They'll sit for their state certification, and then hopefully they'll be employed. So again, it's companies upscaling the employees that they have for the need that they have. And I just think that is just a good story and one of the reasons why Tennessee has been successful. Nashville State has a great story in that they partnered with Metro Nashville Action Commission and the McNeely Center to work with developing child care workers. Due to COVID, we had a lot of people in the Davidson County area that lost jobs. They needed to be able to be retrained. They and a lot of child care agencies needed people to be trained and to work in the field in their area. And so they worked with Nashville State. They have, or at the end of April, they will have produced 30 graduates in this program. It's a workforce program, but the best news is It's tying directly in to Nashville State's certificate that they have in childcare, along with their AAS degree. So that training is going to also hopefully continue on for those individuals and be able to complete their degree at some point. But it met both needs. We had unemployed people and we had a need in the childcare industry. So kudos to Nashville. The next slide, please. Okay, with the Tennessee Trained, we kind of went on sabbatical too with COVID. As for new board members, Tennessee Trained is a system approach to dealing with workforce as they come in the state. So we have the community college, the technical colleges, Department of Labor, ECD, community chambers, all types of folks working together so that the story is the same when industry wants to land in Tennessee. And so that's how Tennessee started. The chancellor started this in 2018, was our first class. We were just about to start our third class when COVID came. We rebooted and we did a lot of really good webinars and Zoom meetings and some training. We are getting the itch to start back. We hope to be able to have meetings this September and start the program again. But meanwhile, we're going to be offering a conference in April. The next slide, please. In April 13th and 14th, we're going to have national speakers in. Jesse Cole is the founder of Fans First Entertainment. His role is going to be talking about customer service, both within and without. He's very energetic. I think he'll provide a wonderful start to our two-day event. We know people are busy, so we're going to have about 2 hours, I think, each day, an hour and a half each day for people to attend and hear. But he is on our first day after a welcome from the chancellor. Our next topic will be on credentialing with the prior learning credit assessment, going from workforce to credit side, so that people don't have to repeat what's going on, and also talking a little bit about the future of workforce.
Hey, Carol.
Yes, ma'am.
Question. Last year, you guys had a great speaker on workforce, I think at this same conference. A few of us from the board were able to join. Would it be possible to have that same invitation extended to hear Mr. Cole?
Yes, please. We'd love for you to. I hated to send an invitation in case you didn't want to do it, but we would love to have you join us.
Okay.
That would be great. I'll get Jennifer. We'll get with you and get anyone signed up that wants to. We'd love for you to hear him. I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll enjoy both days, really, with the prior learning credit and how that can work with workforce development training. We really do want that pathway. I don't want people to get trained and then stop and have to start. We want them to continue on. Jennifer Fuchs oversees this program. So Vice Chair Reynolds, she'll get in touch with you and any other board members who want to register. She and the workforce reps have really worked hard on this conference, and we're excited. And again, just continue to make Tennessee the best state it can be for workforce.
Absolutely.
And that concludes my presentation.
No, thank you. Thank you. Lots happening. Hey, just one quick question. We are in 9 out of 10 of the state facilities in our correctional workforce training program. What's the one we're missing and why? Is that next on the agenda?
Well, actually, when we started with this project with the governor's office, they did not include that particular one. I'm not exactly sure why. I'll find out and get it to you. But I want to say it's the Lund. I just sent an email this morning to find out exactly the name of it, but it was never intended to be in the program, and I don't know why.
Okay, that's okay. No, I was just curious. That's okay.
I will get to you.
Board members, any other questions or comments for Carol? It's a lot of exciting things happening that all impact Tennessee's future, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Dr. Deaton, you are up next with 2 more important topics for us. So bring us up to date first on the strategic plan, and with a big thanks again to all the board engagement. And I think we're going to have one more session to take another look at this. But Russ, I'll let you talk through that.
That's right. Well, thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds, Dr. Tidings, members of the board. Good morning to all. And that is a good place to start, Vice Chair, is reflecting back on the 2 board workshops we had earlier this winter, really some deep engagement on the ideas of the strategic plan, the direction we're going, and really fleshing out this whole structure for the next 5 years, this mid-cycle review that we're in. Much of what I'll talk about today, we did cover at committee chairs, but I have a couple of new wrinkles I do want to point out, all of which, to kind of look ahead first, is gearing up for the next board workshop, which after consultation with the chancellor and vice chair, we're going to try to make as part of the June committee chairs meeting. And then hopefully presentation to the board of the strategic plan structure, the update at the June board meeting for your consideration. That's where we're driving towards. And I feel like we're well on our way towards that. Again, just some updates from recent goings on. The steering committee met again a few weeks ago to really, much like this board did, dig into the particulars of the plan, the ideas, the themes that form the foundation of it, talk through potential metrics and innovations and programs, and really just dig in deeply to the ideas that are emerging as central to that plan update. We've also continued to have conversations with partners throughout the state. You will recall we have met with everyone from student government leaders to, we had a higher education panel one day with leaders from SCORE, UT, THEC, and Tcat. We have met with Chamber of Commerce representatives, the statewide workforce board, just quite a few audiences to try to get their take on our future, to get their take on the types of strategic innovations that TBR should be pursuing as part of this 10-year cycle. One of the key things that has come up that we talked a little bit about at the workshops is that the structure of the plan is beginning to take shape. I think the bones and the foundation are pretty well set. We've talked about those core ideas: open access, the completion pillar, and then the community, the personal and economic impact that we can have on our students and our communities. Those 3 ideas, I think, really are forming the foundation of this update. And then the other ideas that we've discussed along the way, innovation, collaboration, equity, capacity building, I think this board and the steering committee identified those really as sort of cross-cutting. They don't really fit necessarily as distinct themes per se. They really flow through every part of the plan and should for our future. And so we're now working on a way to capture that idea. So again, rather than sort of 6 or 7 themes sitting sort of in sequence, to have those 3 primary themes and then those other ones as sort of cross-cutting ideas, again, that flow through everything that we do. So again, we will meet in the coming months to move towards a final product. And one key thing I want to show you, and Carol, if we could maybe go to that infographic now. One of the things that we've been working on, and this is a product of TBR's award-winning marketing and digital strategy team, is what's on the screen here. And this is just simply a draft. This is a work in progress, but it is that interactive infographic we talked to you about at the previous workshops. And the idea here is that moving away from sort of a lengthy or traditional narrative, which, to be frank, is more difficult for the user to engage with if they're having to read a lengthy document, and instead have something that they can interact with. And so the idea that we're building is what you see in front of you, where each of those core 3 themes or pillars we would have an opportunity to interact with. The user could see what we mean when we say completion, what metrics might capture and manifest that idea, what programmatic activities and innovations are underway and that we're contemplating that give life to that theme. This would then allow the user, for instance, you can see on the screen under completion, this draft product. If you want to learn more about achieving the dream or sales, this would allow you to click through and go learn more about those innovations and those programs. And again, to get a better sense of the data that fulfills completion. And so this again has been a heavy lift for Matthew Gain and his team to try to get a draft here today. We were hopeful to continue to pursue this again as the vehicle for the plan, bring back to you in June. But this is what we have in mind. And again, the pillars that we've talked about so much the last really now close to a year, I think have really firmed up those core themes of open access, completion, and then the community personal impact. Again, everything is still in draft. Even the labels and the ideas we're thinking through. We're still trying to polish the work based on the feedback we've gotten from you in the steering committee. But Vice Chair, I think we're progressing quite well. And again, the goal is to bring this group back a product for consideration at the June board meeting, and to show you a preview of it at committee chairs here in early June. And with that, I'd be happy to take questions.
That's excellent. Feedback for Russ this morning?
Russ, this is Regent Gill. Can we get a copy of this? What you put on the screenshot's interesting, but it's really hard to digest just in a short time. Could you make a copy of that available to us?
Absolutely, we will do that. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Well, good progress, Dr. Deaton, and I know we'll all look forward to spending time together on June 1 in another work session. These have all been incredibly productive. Do you want to segue then to your next section here?
Yes, ma'am, would love to. So as those slides are coming up, I want to give the board an update on fall 2020 and spring 21 enrollment and graduation data, and under the broader heading of just an overall look at our access, retention, and success over the last couple of semesters. You can advance to the next slide, please, Carol, and actually go ahead to the next one. We'll get right to the data. Some of this will be a review. We did talk to you about some of the fall enrollment numbers we saw in the last few board meetings, but just to level set again, for the most part, Tcats had a very healthy fall semester, only had a 2% enrollment decline, excuse me, from fall 19 to fall 20. You do see differences based on demographics, adults, and dual enrollment, et cetera. But in the main, this sector came out really well, considering the tumultuousness of enrollments nationwide. Our Tcats were quite healthy this past fall. Next slide, please, Carol. And then looking at community colleges, and again, this is where we saw the bulk of our declines. You'll recall that at census date in that fall semester, the early look at fall, we were down about 12%. That number tends to get better throughout the semester, of course, as short courses come on the books, as enrollments are finalized. And so we ended this semester at only a 10% decline, still quite significant, of course, with some dramatic differences by demographic, particularly the first-time freshman number, which declined around 3,000 students. And to put that in perspective, that's about half the increase from the Tennessee Promise surge we saw 6 years ago. It was essentially wiped away due to the pandemic and recession. On the next slide, again, kind of putting in perspective again, it's not just the enrollment decline that is of note and of concern, but of course, we felt it acutely in demographic differences, particularly for Black men. That first-time freshman class of Black men is 1/3 smaller than it was last fall. Again, if there's any illustration of the imperative of the equity work, we saw it last fall for sure. So again, you see here on the screen just some high-level summaries again of what we saw back in the fall, which we would have gone over in September. So moving on to the next slide, we have now also a look at the fall 2020 course data, looking at how students did in their courses. And we really put these in two broad buckets you see on the bottom there. On the left-hand side, those students who earned credit and what we would usually call a success rate, a grade of A, B, or C, we highlight on the far left. And we saw some modest declines in that success rate, 4 percentage points fewer students getting that A, B, or C than the previous falls. And then in the middle and on the right, you see where students ran into troubles, where no credit was earned. Either they failed the course, they stopped attending and thus failed the course, or they formally withdrew. Those rates moved up. And it doesn't look alarming visually because it's from a low base, but these numbers are usually pretty durable, and to see increases at all just illustrates the stress that, again, was caused both by the pandemic and the recession. Again, the equity story here, board members, is also key, because if you were to break these numbers down across race and gender, you do see some more significant pressure on those no credit earned categories among, for instance, Black men and Hispanic women. You see some of those same pressures, those same equity gaps in this data. Next slide, please, Carol. Now, moving on to spring, and you can go ahead and click on to the first data point here. So again, first on the Tcats, again, good story overall here. As you look at both their registrations and actual enrollments by week, and recall that the continuous and open enrollment aspect of Tcats means this is really a moving target. Enrollment changes really every week. As of the most recent poll, which was last week, we're only down 3 to 4% from the last year. So again, spring is holding steady at Tcats, a tribute to the work they've done there. And moving on to the next slide, we'll see community colleges. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, community college breakdown. You see there that spring pressures continued for the community colleges, where fall was down about 10% from that same time last year. Spring 21 enrollment is down about 15% from spring last year. Now, you think through this. So the declines has accelerated. We've got more pressures on the enrollments this spring. You think back to the pandemic conditions in January. The pandemic was worse than it was in August. The recession had further eroded the economy, and so the spring enrollment declines being a little bit steeper is in some ways intuitive. Still, though, quite a challenge, of course. And again, we see that across demographics, whether it's dual enrollments, adults. We do have some students who start college for the first time every spring. That number declined. Again, pressures across the board in the spring enrollment, down about 11,000 students from spring last year. And the story on equity continued. Again, you have differences by race, by gender, declines that are on a percentage basis quite alarming, but when you think about it in terms of just the number of students, the number of Tennesseans not engaged in higher education, again, it sort of shows the scope of the equity challenge we have. Next slide, please, Carol. Now, a few more quick things before we wrap up here. So another metric we look closely at is the fall to spring, semester to semester retention rate of the freshman class that starts every fall. So recall that we have around 15,000 or so first-time, full-time students who start every fall, and we, of course, track retention semester by semester. Historically, around 75 to 80% of that freshman class returns for the spring. This spring of 21, that number declined to 70%, about 7 percentage point decline from the prior year. And again, to put that in numbers, that's around 1,000 students who normally would have come back for spring, but did not for again, a variety of reasons related to the recession and the pandemic. Again, the equity story flows to this too. You see the fall to spring retention among Black men declining to below 60%. You see pressures across the board. You see differences in by race and by gender. So again, we saw a deterioration in that fall to spring retention rate, which will probably over time play through graduation success rates as well. But next slide, please, Carol. And go ahead to the data slide, please. To end on some positive news, if you look at the degrees and credentials that we awarded in the fall term, the Board of Regents set a record for the fall, and you can see the breakdown here, community college and Tcat, and then the overall number on the right. And at the very, very bottom is that fall 2020 number. 7,031 credentials were earned in the fall term, which again for TBR is a record, something to be proud of. The Tcats set a sector record, and the community colleges almost got to their own record back just 3 years ago. So again, we saw quite a bit of student success in the fall. Again, these students were ones who were obviously closer to their credential, but again, TBR setting a record for awards earned across our sector in fall 20. Next, we'll see that graduation rate metric, and this is one hopefully by now you're used to seeing. Again, this is the way we like to show graduation rates of that first-time freshman class. And again, this is a limited metric because so many of our students are not first-time freshmen and still graduating or successful. But isolating just that freshman class, what you're seeing here is as you move left to right, is we're counting semesters to look at what proportion of that freshman class graduates after some number of semesters. You see a vertical line at the 9-semester count. That's counting fall, spring, summer. So that's a 3-year graduation rate. And then you can track that out over time. Each of those lines represents an individual cohort. So at the near the bottom, that gray line is around 2009, 2010, and then on up, you can see subsequent cohorts as well. So what sort of jumps off the page to you here is that 3-year graduation rate has been accelerating. So if you were to look at, say, the 2017, which is in yellow, that 3-year graduation rate, which we showed you back in September, of 25%, is double what it was just 8 or 9 years ago. So we've seen in that continued acceleration of that graduation rate. And importantly, whenever we typically quote a graduation rate or in iPads or the federal government quotes it or in certain fact books, you'll often see that 3-year rate only, but we know students continue to graduate after 3 years, and we want to make sure we give that full story. Obviously, graduating quicker is better, but they don't stop at 3 years. And so that overall grad rate, which you see there going on in the year 6 and beyond, is now getting above 30%. But the key here too, and it's that red line that you can see on the left, the 2018 cohort is graduating at about a 20% rate after 2.5 years. So as of fall 20. They got a long way to go, of course, and many more of them will graduate this spring. But that 20% rate after 2.5 years is the highest TBR has had on record as well. And again, if you look back just a few years ago, that number was 6 or 7%. So long way to go, a lot of work left. But again, numbers moving in the right direction. And finally, Carol, just to show that again in a little more up close, but again with the equity component, that overall 3-year rate for that 2018 cohort through the fall semester, 2.5 years. Again, 20%, but with a significant gap by race. We saw improvements across the board in that rate from 2019, but a long way to go. And the final note, you'll see this on the right in that gray box, to give you a sense of the number of Tennesseans that this is impacting. Based on the size of the freshman class and this graduation rate, about 2,000 more Tennesseans are graduating at this point in time now from the 2018 cohort as compared to a cohort from 2014. So again, moving in the right direction, doing our part for the Drive to 55 and educational attainment. Again, a lot of work left, but numbers moving in the right direction. Carol, go ahead, please. And again, just key takeaways here once we've gone over. But members of the board, again, we've seen continued erosion in enrollment. Tcat sector is holding steady. Fall to spring retention rates have declined, but again, setting a record for credentials earned and graduation rates, which we hope continues here in spring 21, which will bring you later this year. And happy to address questions now or to discuss this further with you.
Questions and comments for Russ on this? And Chancellor, you may have some technicolor you want to add as well.
The one thing I would like to add again, just to highlight, is the fact that we've had more graduates this year than we've ever had. That just can't be said enough. Last year, when we broke that record, I think I shared with y'all that you never could have told me that was possible in the year of a pandemic. To do it again this year is a testament to the work that our colleges are doing every single day. I can only imagine that had we not had a pandemic, these numbers would be even higher. So I just kudos to every single person on our campuses that made this possible, because they have gone above and beyond. And I just am so proud.
On these enrollment numbers, and knowing everything we're doing already, and hopefully the emphasis along with THEC that we'll all be putting on African Americans and African American male populations in particular. What's sort of your crystal ball around enrollments? Is there anything else you need to drive these numbers back up? Is it simply a matter of kind of waiting out our current circumstances? But I want us to be poised to react when the world does feel better.
Vice Chair, I'll be happy to address that. I do think it's important to acknowledge that the pandemic conditions are probably overwhelming a lot right now, and that abating, I think, is a huge factor. Having said that, I think it's emphatically the case, like you said, that we're not the collective we, TBR, TIC, all of us are not resting on laurels. One key thing that's going on now, and Regent House may want to address this, is that TSAC has, through its authority, opened up access to Tennessee Promise for the class of 2020. Who did not go to school this past fall to then access Promise this coming fall, if they had fulfilled their obligations, applied for Promise, done the FAFSA, et cetera. So there is now, currently and in the near future, a pretty aggressive outreach effort underway to try to, I'll use the verb, reclaim those students who would have probably gone to higher ed, hopefully to come back into the freshman class either this summer or fall. And there are myriad efforts otherwise like that going on throughout the state. So again, I think to your core question, getting the pandemic, getting us all collectively vaccinated is probably obviously the main factor here. In the meantime, we're doing everything we can to try to reclaim a lot of those lost enrollments and to continue the successes we've seen this past fall.
That's very helpful. Chancellor, Dr. House, anything to add?
Dr. House, if you would please just talk for a moment too about the approach you're taking for anybody that needs to appeal their process on the Promise.
Yes, ma'am. So good morning, everybody. Glad to be with you. To Russ's point, to Chancellor Tiding's point, from the THAC and TSAC perspective, we are trying to make aid as available as possible for students to get Tennessee Promise aid or Reconnect aid, keep that aid, persist in school. As it relates to what Russ just said about opening the gates for those who applied for Promise, filed their FAFSA, but didn't ultimately enroll in 2020, ensuring that they know that they are eligible for this coming year, as well as permitting TBR institutions, or all institutions really, but as it relates to Promise and Reconnect, all of the community and technical colleges, kind of a blanket appeal authority. So any student who is at risk of losing aid or has dropped out or whatever for reasons related to COVID, TSAC has with my authority, which expires June 30th, by the way. I will not have this authority for much longer. So if anybody has any requests, please let me know. But with the authority given by the General Assembly to the Executive Director of TAC and TSAC, we have been able to grant sort of a blanket appeal to any student who may have a need because of COVID. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that, provide more detail, but I think it's safe to say that we are all rowing in the same direction with regard to getting students in, getting students back. To Russ's point about really seeing what happens post-COVID, when you guys can't see me, I'm not on camera, but I'm doing air quotes, right? When COVID is over, seeing what happens, but also seeing how long the recovery will take from there. There was mention, I think Vice Chair Reynolds mentioned the Black Male Initiative. We are actually kicking off the steering group for the Black Male Success Initiative on Wednesday, April 7th. So more detail to come on that as we think about the needs of particular subgroups of students, and in this specific case, the needs of Black males across the enterprise. So I will stop there. Happy to answer any other questions. And as always, you all know where to find me. I don't want to take any more time from the meeting, but if anybody wants to talk about anything in greater depth, please reach out anytime.
Thank you. Questions or comments from others?
Russ, this is Regent Gill.
Yeah.
I really am enthralled by your pretty pictures. Can you send us a copy of this as well? This is great information.
Yes, sir.
A lot to digest.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Yes, sir.
So the 11,000 student declines at the community colleges, does it average out equally among the colleges? Or do we see highs and lows?
We do. We see a lot of variation. Yes, ma'am. And it's sort of hard to pinpoint why. Obviously, the pandemic conditions are different. I do think the K-12 open and closure dynamics, which vary across the state, probably play through this some. A lot of factors, the demographics of the region. So we do see a lot of variation. Yes, ma'am. Though it's hard to exactly pinpoint why that is.
Okay. Regent Powers?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. I do have a question, and I'll apologize in advance just because I know Regent George and I are probably a little behind the 8 ball on some of this, just because it's a lot hitting us at once that we've never seen before. So if I'm behind on something, forgive me. In looking at, and I screenshotted some of this just so that I could capture an image and be able to talk about it. So I'm looking back at the graduation, 2020 fall 2020 graduation credentials. I saw that we had the demographic information for retention enrollment, but I don't remember seeing the same for that fall 2020 exceptional blow it out of the water number of 7,031. It would be nice to see the demographic, especially Black male, breakdown there. Is that available?
Regent Powers, it is. We can get that for you and even make that part of a future presentation. So it's a routine thing you see. But yes, in the interim, we can get that for you.
Okay, thank you so much. And would you imagine that might be encouraging information, or do you think it follows the pattern that we're seeing on the enrollment and retention?
I think honestly, it's going to follow that pattern. If you look just at graduation rates by race, and there's some significant gaps there, that probably obviously translates to there being a smaller proportion of, for instance, Black men in that graduating cohort than is reflected in their initial enrollment. So just based on that alone, I would suspect that we would see, let me put it this way, the equity gap challenge is probably more acutely seen in the demographics of the graduates than even in enrollments.
I was afraid of that, but was hoping something different. Thank you.
Others?
This is Regent Gill again. Is the information available of what the enrollment results have been and graduation results have been by institution, by college or Tcat?
Yes, sir. We have those, and they're always available. Also, not to point you to an impersonal website, but our data dashboards and our college profiles have that on there, plus a lot of other stuff too that's very accessible. Yeah, all that is out there, and we can actually provide you links to that or a summary of that, Regent Gill, to show you the by college breakdown.
Yeah, no, that's great. Both of those would be helpful. I've been to the dashboard before, but assumed that this was new information. I didn't realize it had already been uploaded. But thank you. That's helpful.
I guess just indulge me one more time, and maybe it'll help somebody else other than me too. But the 3-year graduation graph that you showed a few minutes ago lost me a little bit. Can you take 30 seconds and readdress, if you don't mind?
Sure. And Regent Powers, is it the cumulative one that moves?
Yes.
Out, yeah. And Carol, would you mind just putting that back up on the screen for all? And as that's coming up, so what you're going to see, Regent Powers, is, and this is a way of us showing graduation rates and as they build up over time. So we're going to take a cohort of freshmen and then simply semester by semester cumulatively add up what percentage of them graduate. So as you were to move down the x-axis at the 9 semester point, which is basically 3 years, showing how many have graduated at that point. If you move out to obviously the 12 number, that's 12 semesters, that's 4 years, just showing how that graduation rate builds up over time and doesn't really stop at 3 years. That's one of the keys we try to convey with that graph is student success continues even beyond the sort of traditional metric of the 3-year graduation rate, which is what typically people see, and that's all without context. So this shows from that class the graduation numbers forever, for whenever they stopped producing anything else, and they eventually get up, as you see, to around 30%. And the other key here, of course, is that acceleration. This graph from the 2010 cohort, for instance, would have shown a lot lower graduation rates than we see in subsequent years, particularly in the last few years.
So the suggestion is that we've got people graduating potentially 30 semesters out. Is that?
You do see 1 or 2 every now and then. I mean, you can really see it's asymptotic beginning at about year 6 or 7, obviously, but you do see graduations growing measurably up until about year 6. At that point, it does really peter out. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. I understand it now.
Any other thoughts or comments for Russ this morning? Oh, Dr. Goldsmith, I need you to unmute. Are you, Dr.
That's-
Goldsmith? Yeah,
yeah,
there
that-
you go. I
that-
thought I saw those lips moving.
Russ, are we tracking or able to track, when we look at success rates pre-COVID, and then we're trying to understand now with the different groups and equity gaps, obviously there are factors that have nothing to do with being ready for college that impact a student's ability to go to school or even stay in school. Is there any way for us to know if COVID is exacerbating just the economic issues, the lack of a computer? I guess I'm trying to understand, is it exacerbating the gaps that already exist pre-COVID, or is it something new that we're looking at? Because I'm not as confident of a big rebound as a lot of people are in student enrollment once we get past everyone being vaccinated and a different sense of going back to normal.
Yeah, Regent Goldsmith, that's a great question, and I can think out loud for you. I obviously don't have a firm conclusion here, and we have thought about this a lot. I do think technology access has been a big factor, both Wi-Fi access and also just a physical machine to do work on. And we saw this in our faculty survey. We've seen this from student groups. Those are barriers. I mean, in the main, it looked like we had more or less addressed that issue, but there were still significant numbers that just had trouble with those things. I do think too, different students, just based on personality and preparation, react differently to the online learning environment. And we've said before, probably it's difficult to teach reading in a Zoom or a Teams environment. That's something you need to kind of be hands-on for. So I think things like that are going to play through this, all of which I think, to your point, probably do to some degree exacerbate those differences. I think if anything, we're going to see that those who were probably better off, better prepared, were probably able to withstand the stresses of the last year more so than those who were not. So again, we've seen some early signs of that. So my guess is it's probably made some of those gaps worse. And hopefully once we're again in that post-COVID, that new normal, some of that does abate, but we're going to be living with some of that for a long time probably.
Okay, because in my notes, I wrote down better prepared, better economic status. And I don't want to discount the success that TVR has had in improving graduation rates over the period of time and what those charts show. But I guess I'm also wondering, are those rates in a large part attributable to that we're doing a better job with the better prepared and the better economic status students in our system? And maybe is it catch-up time to start really looking at the groups that are not performing as well and seeing alternative ways of trying to help them get to success?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I do think, because our overall academic profile of our freshman class has not changed much over time, right? We've gotten probably in general better with the better prepared ones and not made as many improvements with the marginally prepared ones. Though things like co-requisite remediation, sales, those things, I think, which are sort of geared towards that sort of lower end of the preparation spectrum, I think have made significant gains there. But I think to your general point, sir, you're right. I think you're probably seeing some of those differences play out in our data over time. And the COVID impacts, of course, will change that even further.
Yeah, because it seems to me that I know Drive to 55 is still an emphasis in our strategic plan, but that can be hard to achieve given these factors. That's the way it seems to feel that way to me.
That's right. And one thing, too, to kind of end on this point, the overall degree attainment goals this system has, of course, includes adults, transfers, returning students, everybody. The graduation rate, of course, is just limited to that freshman class. And so as a proxy for how we're doing overall, it's a poor one. It's a really good metric for that freshman. But so to your point, Regent Goldsmith, we're going to have to get better with adults, with more dual enrollment access. We've got a lot of work in a lot of areas.
And let me, final point was, I haven't seen you mention the success rate that you had created. And remember the workshop, was it over a year ago? I love that because I think that's a much truer picture for the public that they don't see. They see these success rates based on first-time freshmen, and all of us know that we have so many students that don't fit that, and yet we do give them something that they need.
That's right.
So I don't know if that's something that we can use again, or I hope it hasn't fallen away in any way.
No, sir, not at all. Much of it is our own comfort level with knowing that it's really revealing a phenomenon. And just really very quickly, board members, it's a different kind of metric that tries to get away from definitions about cohorts and length of time. It's basically saying of all the students we serve at a given moment in time, how many of them are we ever successful with? And it does show a bit of a different story. So Regent Goldsmith, we're still working on it. I think we've got to get it polished and ready, but it's something that's still front of mind for us. Yes.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Russ, this is Regent Gill again. So in the past, you have looked at the correlation between ACT scores and the success ratio graduation rates, I think, as I recall it. And my memory is the main focus on that was the community colleges. As we're seeing longer terms out, as we're seeing the graduation rates improve, what's happening with the ACT scores? Are we dealing with people who are still about the same level, poorly college ready, or are we seeing the college ready improve? And could that be part of our reason that we're seeing higher graduation rates? Are we doing something that is doing a better job of making up for the poor college ready status that we're getting from K-12?
It's an interesting question, and we do watch closely that academic preparation profile of the freshman class, and particularly after Promise, when you saw an influx of 4,000 or 5,000 new high school graduates, about a 40% increase. We were watching whether that overall profile changed, and in the main, it didn't change much. I mean, if you were to graph ACT score distributions of the freshman class, it looks pretty similarly now as it did 5-10 years ago, which is suggestive, Regent Gill, that it's not so much the profile itself that is moving the graduation rates up, but it's instead a function of faculty and the work that they're doing and the student success initiatives that TNC and TBR have been deploying over the last decade. Or to say it another way, you can obviously increase graduation rates just with higher ACT scores, better inputs. I don't think that's been the case for our freshman class, and so I think much of it's attributable to the innovation work that's been going on in the last few years. Though, of course, that's a complex phenomenon. There's probably a little bit of both in there, but overall, it's probably more of the initiatives than it is the profile itself.
Is that not a really important component for us to look at? I mean, if we are having in our community colleges and our Tcat the ability to take students who are not college ready and to provide them a better future, quantifying what those things that we're doing and expanding that, is that not a really important strategic route for us to start focusing on?
It is, and there have been many efforts over the years that have, for instance, looked at the effectiveness of, say, co-requisite remediation or sales or all these other initiatives and their impact on ultimate success. It's obviously really difficult to tease out sort of a one-to-one relationship there or to attribute success to a single program. It's probably the constellation of things that we're doing, everything from financial aid on Promise to better success with preparation challenges through sales and co-rec to high impact practices we're doing. I mean, there's a lot that goes in there. So a lot of those efforts are underway, Regent Gill, some of which we bring and show you, others of which we could definitely kind of give y'all a briefing on because they're interesting research projects for sure. I would also say, this whole phenomenon is particularly interesting at the Tcats who have shown that they are successful with their completion rates, which are in the 70-80%, throughout the ACT preparation spectrum, which is not the phenomenon you see in other parts of the system. So there's some interesting observations from the Tcat world as well that are probably worthy to include in this conversation.
All right, excellent discussion. Thank you, Dr. Deaton. Thank you all. So more to come. Good questions. Everybody keep thinking of those questions for Russ, particularly as we head toward this strategic plan. So with any luck, we'll get it all addressed. But excellent discussion. Brian Laps, I'm going to turn to you now. Yes, for this draft rulemaking.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds. This, as everybody recalls, this is something we discussed previously at the committee chairs meeting, and no vote is going to be asked today. Rather, I anticipate asking a vote to approve the draft rules in June, but this is just a chance to have further discussion because I know I downloaded a lot of information when we spoke earlier this month at the committee chairs meeting. So I'm willing to answer questions, entertain any discussion at this time. And as always, I am more than happy to discuss any of the draft rules that Carol has just put up on the slide with you on a one-on-one basis as well. So I'll basically ask if there is any questions because they haven't changed since last time I discussed them.
Anyone have anything for Brian? All right, you did a very good job at committee chairs walking us through, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll see you back here in just a few minutes. We are now moving into our action items, and I will call on the Chancellor who has a recommendation for the Tcat at McKinsey and Paris.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and this is an exciting part of our program today. I'd like to thank the members of the search committee for their time and commitment while serving on this committee, and particularly to recognize members who served on the committee, beginning with our board members. Vice Chair Reynolds served as chair of this search committee. Regent Mark Gill and Regent Joey Hatch were a part of the committee. Also, representatives of Tcat college faculty, staff, and students, and community and industry leaders. I'd also like to heartily thank April Preston and Carol Tomlinson on our staff who managed this search in-house. They did a terrific job and kept all the cats herded and helped us get through a very smooth process. But Madam Chair, after very careful review and consideration, going through numerous applicants, 7 interviews with candidates that were selected from the cream of the crop, I am very pleased to recommend to you today Mr. Willie Huffman as the next president of Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology, Paris and McKinsey. Mr. Huffman is the current vice president of Applied Technology at Tcat Paris. He holds a master's of professional studies in strategic leadership from Austin Peay State University and a bachelor of science in business administration from Bethel College. Mr. Huffman was a 2007 graduate of the Maxine Smith Fellows Program and a graduate of the TBR Technology Center Leadership Program in 2001-2. I believe that Mr. Huffman is absolutely the best choice going forward for Tcat Paris and McKinsey and the success of his students, and he was a unanimous choice by the search committee. He brings a wealth of knowledge in the area of workforce development and is going to continue to help the campus grow and meet the needs of the region. If adopted, Mr. Huffman will begin on April 1st with standard Tcat presidential allowances and state of Tennessee employee benefits. Madam Chair, I ask for the board vote on this most critical position for Tcat Paris and McKinsey.
Thank you, Chancellor. And I will just say from the perspective of having the pleasure to serve on the search committee, it's really hard, obviously, in this day and time to do this kind of interaction by Zoom. But what came through to me, and I'm sure to Regents Gill and Hatch as well, from the folks who work at the Tcats there and from the community and industry leaders we had, the care for those 2 Tcats, care for the community came through loud and clear, even though we couldn't be in the same room together. And that was just one of the most moving parts of the whole experience. So to the Paris and McKinsey communities and the counties they serve, well done. It is a very caring community. We began our search, of course, following the retirement announcement of Brad White last fall. And the committee put a lot of work in February and early March, meeting 3 or 4 times with our standard procedure. That, as the Chancellor said, April and Carol guided so well. Meeting for an orientation, subsequently meeting to review applicants, and we had 22 roughly from around the country. We narrowed that for interviews with the search committee. And then, of course, ultimately 3 candidates were invited to take part in the campus interviews or public forums. We did have 1 candidate drop out prior to those public forums. We gathered to go over reference checks. And of course, the chancellor met with the final candidates one by one as well. But again, just a great experience. And to echo the chancellor's comments, it is my firm belief as well that Mr. Huffman is absolutely the right person at the right time. And the fact that he has worked so long with Dr. White means this will be, to me at least, a seamless transition. Joey and Mark, anything from your end?
I'll just add that I agree with your assessment. In the interview process, he came across as really knowledgeable, and of course, he's been there a long time and seemed like a perfect fit.
Well said. I loved your comment about when you go visit our schools, you keep that list of people you want to have a cup of coffee with and a further discussion. And I think you said Mr. Huffman was at the top of your list.
That's right.
Regent Gill?
Yeah, I would echo that. This is a truly impressive individual and what he's done with his life. And I assume he'll be an outstanding Tcat president. But if he doesn't, then he still deserves it just because of what he's done in his life. He's a truly impressive person. And I think he will do a great job.
Agreed. Would you be so kind as to offer a motion to recommend Mr. Huffman for the position?
I would be pleased to. I would like to make a motion for Mr. Willie Huffman to be appointed as the president of the Tcats in Paris and McKenzie.
Thank you, sir. And Regent Hatch, do you care to offer a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Is there any discussion from any member of the board? Hearing none. Sanja, we're going to put you back in action here. The first of 9 roll call votes. Let's affirm the chancellor's recommendation of Mr. Huffman.
Thank you. And I see that we have Mr. Huffman joining us for comments afterwards.
Excellent.
So we have Regent Apple. Regent Apple, I think you need to unmute your phone. We'll come back to you. Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent George.
Aye.
Regent Gill.
A very strong aye.
Thank you. Regent Goldsmith.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hatch.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher.
Aye.
Thank you. Regent McEllier.
We can always use more wills, so I vote aye.
That is good. Regent Powers.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Womp.
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
And Regent Apple, are you able to hear us and vote? Motion carries, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So to the board, yes, here we go. Thank you, Dandy. Lead us in a round of applause. Willie Huffman, you have the faith and confidence of this board, and I know the faith and confidence of your friend and colleague, Dr. Brad White. The floor is yours. Congratulations. We are very proud you're part of our team.
Thank you, Regent Reynolds. First, I would like to thank Chancellor Tidings and the members of the Board of Regents for allowing me this opportunity to serve as the president of Tcat Paris and McKenzie. Both of these institutions have a long history of producing quality graduates and a servant mindset for the communities they serve. I want to continue and build on this long-standing tradition. I know with the help of the students, faculty, and staff, it is possible. I would also like to thank the faculty and staff of both institutions for their support and words of encouragement during this process. I'm excited to be able to work with a group of people that care about others and want to see them succeed. I have witnessed firsthand how technical education can play a major role in changing someone's life and have a positive impact on their community. I would like to continue to provide opportunities for both students and communities to grow. Thank you again for this opportunity. I am truly honored.
Yay. So congratulations. Thank you for doing us the honor of being willing to have made application and now to serve in this role. So all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
All the best. Thank you, sir. Now we turn to a little bit of a bittersweet moment as we applaud the service of Dr. Brad White and celebrate his time with us as part of the TBR family. And I believe, Regent Duckett, I'm calling on you to read the resolution for Dr. White.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. It's my pleasure to present this resolution of appreciation for the service of Dr. Bradley W. White to the Tennessee Board of Regents. Resolution reads as follows. Whereas Dr. Bradley W. White is a lifelong resident of Buchanan, Tennessee, who first attended the Tennessee College of Applied Technology at Paris as a dual enrolled student in high school. And whereas Dr. White graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Business from Murray State University, majoring in accounting, an Associate of Science from State Technical Institute at Memphis, majoring in vocational technical education, a Master's of Science in Education from the University of Tennessee at Martin, majoring in educational administration and supervision, an educational specialist degree, and doctorate of education from the University of Memphis, majoring in adult education with a concentration in higher education. And whereas he was employed at the State Area Vocational Technical School at Paris, now the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, as the small engine instructor from 1977 to 1982, an assistant counselor and vocational teacher from 1983 to 1984, financial aid administrator from 1985 to 1986, the assistant director from 1986 to 2006, an interim director at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology at Jackson from 1999 to 2000, an interim director at Tcat Paris from July 2006 to December 2006, due to the untimely death of Director Jimmy Pritchard. In January of 2007, he was appointed director of Tcat Paris. In 2009, he became president of both Tcat Paris and Tcat McKenzie. And whereas he has served numerous leadership roles within the Tennessee Board of Regents system, including the Tcat Directors Executive Sub-Council from 2008 to 2010, and 2012 to 2016, and he was the chair from 2012 to 2014. And he served as the chair of the Tcat Statewide Administrative Office Curriculum Committee. And whereas during his tenure, he has been actively involved in community service initiatives. He joined the Parish Rotary Club in 1989 and has served as its secretary, vice president, and president, and is also a Paul Harris Fellow. And whereas he serves as a board member of the Henry County Chamber of Commerce and has served on the Henry County Leadership Board and the Henry County Healthcare Foundation. And whereas he has received numerous community service awards, including the Henry County 4-H Family of the Year and the Tcat Paris Outstanding Alumni Award. Whereas President White is known for both his wisdom and his humor and has lived up to the objective he lists on his resume. That is to exercise leadership by being a role model, empowering personnel, building effective teams, and making sound decisions in order to achieve Tennessee Board of Regents goals and promote education. Whereas he will be missed by his colleagues, faculty, staff, students, and alumni of the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Harris, and McKenzie, as well as community leaders in the region. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents expresses its sincere appreciation to Dr. Bradley White for his outstanding contributions and leadership to the college system of Tennessee and wishes him the very best in his retirement. Madam Vice Chair, I move the approval of this resolution honoring Dr. Bradley White.
Thank you, Regent Duckett. Do we have a second?
Seconds, Tom.
Oh, thank you, Tom White. Thank you. Any discussion? Sanja, let's vote enthusiastically by roll call to support this resolution to honor Dr. White, as Regent Duckett read, for being the personification of excellence in leadership.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to recognize that we've got President White on the line, and if you want to turn your camera on now, that would be great. Regent Apple.
Here he is.
Regent Apple. Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent George.
Aye.
Regent Gill.
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hatch.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatcher, are you on the line? I believe I saw a note where you said you needed to leave the meeting.
He's gone.
Okay, thank you. Regent McEllier.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Garland.
Aye.
Regent Lomp.
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Dr. Brad White, thank you for everything.
Well, thank you. Sonia said I only had a couple hours to talk. I guess I'd talk the first hour about Mr. Huffman. What a asset he's been over the years to me, to the school, and I'm just tickled that he's going to be taking the reins. As for me, I had an instructor tell me one time how lucky I was with my family and job and those things. And I told her, I said, luck didn't have anything to do with it. God has just blessed me in ways I'll never understand. But it's been a pleasure to work with the Tcats and the Board of Regents and just with a group of people that wants to help others. It's just been it's really been an honor, an absolute honor. I know you're not supposed to quote any scripture, but since I'm leaving, I thought, what the heck? In Psalms 109, verse 8, and I'm a Baptist, so I'm going to take it out of context. It says, let his days be few, and let another take his office. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let Mr. Huffman take this office and run with it. Again, I've been blessed, and all of y'all have been part of that blessing. I went to school to be an accountant. I was going to be a CPA. And I always tell people, if you want to make God laugh, tell him what your plans are. And so he had other plans for me. And I liked his plans a lot better than my original ones. So thank you for the resolution. Thank you for the opportunity to serve on the Board of Regents. And it has been, I've been at this school longer than I've been married. So I've been at the school 44 years. I'll be married 43 in September. I mean, in August. You better remember that, in August. So this has been a big part of my life, And so I was talking to Dr. Pereira the other day and told her I've never been unemployed before. I don't know what that feels like. She said, well, she didn't think it was called unemployment. It was called retirement. I said, well, either way, you're not working. So I don't know. But anyway, I'm looking forward to spending some time with my wife who's retired. And believe it or not, the first day off, which will be April 1st. And just for the record, Mr. Huffman started his career with the Tcat on April 1st, 30 some odd years ago. So it's just kind of funny. But anyway, April 1st, my wife has scheduled her and I to take 7 grandkids to see the Ark. So I thought I'd get one day to rest, but anyway, so we're going to have some fun. But thank you very much.
Oh, Brad, you are amazing. And there's all kinds of shout outs to you in the meeting chat. As Carol Perrier said, you have touched literally thousands of lives and made such a difference in the community. So we thank you. We will miss you, but we know you're not, other than going to see the Arch in St. Louis, we know you're home and where your heart is. And we're so grateful. And this is not a divorce, right? This marriage will keep going.
I'm coming by for visits anyway.
Excellent. Excellent. So, and of course, it's so in your character to be so gracious and supportive of Willie how he comes into this job. So thank you for being you.
Thank you.
Would you like to say anything to Dr. White?
Yes, absolutely. And I just cannot thank Brad enough for all that he has done over the course of the years that he has served that college, but also during the time that I have been sitting in this seat. Brad has been one of those individuals that when you really needed to think something through, Brad is who you call. He is always very thoughtful, always very meticulous in his wording of how he looks at situations, and has just been a great thought partner, a great president, just a great human being. And somebody, as was said earlier, you want to get more than one cup of coffee with, because he truly is an inspiration. I did ask Brad the minute he told me he was retiring, I said, but you're not moving. You're still going to be living right there. Is that right? And he said yes. Right. So that gave me a great deal of comfort to know that we could call you. And again, you need to know Mr. Huffman said the same thing. You were going to be right down the road. So if we needed you, we knew we could find you. And I know, again, just knowing you, you're the type of person you would always answer our call. So thank you for everything.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. White. We look forward to seeing you again. So again, a celebratory moment for both Mr. Huffman and Dr. White. We appreciate you both. Thank you for giving us the chance to honor you today. Thank you. Well, as we know, we have another retirement facing us here in the next few months, and that's Dr. Faulkner at Ball State. And Chancellor, I am calling on you to take us through the criteria as we begin this search process.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. The draft criteria for the next president of Volunteer State Community College was included in your board meeting materials you received last week. As you all know, President Faulkner did notify me that he had an intent to retire effective August 31st. I begged him for 6 months to give me time to look for a new person because we could not put an interim in to Volunteer State. We needed him to stay until we could conduct a search because of the great job that he has done there. Upon approval of the criteria, the position will be advertised with various higher education publications. We have asked executive search firm Greenwood Asher and Associates to assist the search advisory committee with providing qualified applicants through their database references and advertisements. Upon approval, Regent Mary Lou Apple has agreed to chair this search, along with Vice Chair Emily Reynolds and Regent Joey Hatch serving as board representatives. Representatives from the student body, faculty, administration, staff, alumni, community and business leaders will also be part of the search advisory committee. Again, while approved, the first meeting of the search advisory committee is set to begin their work April 28th. And referencing and campus interviews are scheduled for throughout May and June, with a special called meeting of the board sometime in July, anticipating that we would have a new president to be in place on September the 1st. Madam Chair, I ask, unless there are any changes to this, for your approval of the proposed criteria for the next president at Volunteer State Community College.
Thank you, Chancellor. Do we have a motion to approve the criteria?
So moved. This is Hatch.
Thank you, Dr. Hatch, Regent Hatch. And a second?
Second is Burdine.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? If not, let's put this process in motion and have Sandra call the roll for us.
Thank you. Regent Apple, have we corrected your technical problem? Can you hear us?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. And I assume that's a yes to approve the criteria. All right. Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Duckett,
Aye.
Regent George,
Aye.
Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Regent McEllier,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Wamp,
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good. And to Mary Lou and Joey, to Mary Lou for chairing the search and Joey serving on the committee. So this, as they all are, this is an important one. So now we officially begin. Thank you all. And Chancellor has one more for us as well, the Tcat at Mcminnville.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. And as y'all all know, we have right now Nathan Garrett serving as interim president for Tcat Mcminnville. And I promised Nathan I wouldn't keep him there too terribly long. Unfortunately, I don't know that I'm keeping my promise to him, but it is time for us to move forward with the draft criteria for the next president of Tcat Mcminnville. It was included in your board meeting materials. If this criteria is approved, committee members and chair of the committee will be announced in the near future. We have asked April Preston and Carol Tomlinson to please again assist with this search, and they have already diligently started that process. So, Madam Chair, unless there are any changes, I respectfully ask approval of the proposed criteria for the next president of Tcat Mcminnville.
Any questions of the Chancellor with regard to this important post and the criteria? If not, may we have a motion to approve?
This is Danny. I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Regent Varlin. And a second?
Second, Duckett.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, once again, Sandra, let's call the roll for approval on this set of criteria.
Thank you. Regent Apple. Aye. Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent George.
Aye.
Regent Gill.
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hatch.
Aye.
Regent McEllier.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Wamp. Regent, thank you. Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Excellent. So more to come on that search. And I know Nathan has been wearing a few hats, so we'll give him some relief along the way, obviously, as this search comes underway. But it's another important job. I'm coming back to Russ Deaton at this point, who is presenting to us multiple measures for a learning support pilot.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Vice Chair. So first, background, board members. You will recall last year about this time, the board approved a pilot project to use high school GPA as a tool for course placement. We've historically used ACT scores to determine whether students go directly into college level work only, or whether they need learning support, as we call it, or remediation to address a preparation deficiency. That was last year due to the ACT being canceled, a whole host of things. And so this board approved a pilot to use high school GPA. Today, we're going to be asking you to formally allow us to extend that pilot for 1 year. So that's the ask I'm going to make of you, and that's the subject matter. But first, let me give you a little bit of background as we go into this. Next slide, please, Carol. So the key to this is allowing students, basically everyone, to have a pathway to college level courses. And again, this is entirely focused around trying to address academic preparation challenges. TBR, by the way, was the first system nationwide to, at scale, introduce co-requisite learning support. The idea that rather than going through, for instance, remedial math, and then if you succeed, college level math, students are placed into college level math directly and then are given the supports in an extra environment to provide them what they need to succeed in that course. So as a part of that, TBR has been trying several different ways to address this issue. First of all, students can get placed directly into that college course without the need for learning support based on a placement test, such as ACT historically. Also, the SAILS program is an innovative approach to this topic as well, which basically takes that remediation task down to the high school senior year with a very healthy success rate in that program. And again, co-requisite remediation, which is the model we use now across TBR, which typically has the use of ACT score as the diagnostic to determine which course, whether you're going into the learning support pathway or not. Next slide, please, Carol. So this is important because, and Regent Gill, you addressed this earlier, we have some significant preparation challenges. On that left-hand box, you see about 60% or so of our freshmen need some sort of learning support to address that preparation issue in at least one subject. And we also, based on the middle box there, see this especially in the equity work that we do. We see differences in preparation levels by race, by gender. So this is important as TBR tries to close those equity gaps. And lastly, this experiment we've been doing for 6 years now of co-requisite remediation has been really successful. About 57% of those students are passing that college level math class in that first year, compared to the old way we did it back in 2015 and prior, the prerequisite model, where the success rates were about 15%. So overall, the terrain here is quite favorable for the board. Next slide, please, Carol. So where does high school GPA come in? So we, in the pilot, this board allowed us to use GPA as a method for placement alongside other measures like ACT. So recall last spring, a lot of students did not have an ACT because they were canceled, or there was a delay in processing the scores. And so GPA allowed us to then place them into college courses or learning support alongside ACT. That GPA is a 3.6 or higher. For most colleges, 3 colleges asked for a provisional GPA of 2.8, which we granted. All of this was fortunate because there was this operational necessity, not having ACT scores, needing to use GPA, which really then met the moment of research blossoming led by Amy Moreland and Lindsay Cook that was looking at the efficacy of GPA already. So we had last year for this board evidence to suggest this was probably a good effort anyway, and that opportunity met that research. Next slide, please, Carol. So what does this mean? So we say the word pilot, which could imply small numbers, but there's quite a few students who are in this pilot. About 1 out of every 6 freshmen are falling under this pilot and this experiment, several thousand students. So on the screen now are the very early looks at some of the early data about success rates. And let's start in the lower left, that green area there. So these are students in the pilot, which means they had an ACT score in math. Let's focus on math first. That was below our traditional cut score, but they had that GPA above 3.6. So in the past, they would have gone into learning support math. This time, though, because of the pilot, because of their high GPA, they were able to bypass learning support and go just straight into college level math by itself and succeeded at about a 72% rate. So that's the pilot students. Now let's contrast that moving to the lower right-hand box. Again, these are students who have an ACT math above the cut score and also have a GPA that's above the 3.6. They're not part of the pilot, but just as a comparison case, they succeed at about a 79% rate. So interestingly enough here, in spite of ACT scores, if that student has that 3.6 GPA, both these two groups of students in these two lower boxes succeed at pretty healthy and comparable rates. Now focus on the upper right. These are students with an ACT score above 19. They're above the cut score, the traditional diagnostic, but had a GPA below 3.6. So again, they were not placed in learning support math. Their ACT score indicated they didn't need to, but their success rates are significantly lower than both the pilot and the other group of students who have healthy preparation levels. So if anything, the preliminary early evidence suggests that if the pilot appears to be working, at least for this one semester, and if anything, members of the board, GPA both could be and appears to be a good diagnostic tool. And we now might want to think about whether ACT is in fact a proper diagnostic tool. A GPA just tells you more information about their eventual success rates. Next slide, please, Carol. So what we're asking for is to extend the pilot, extend the use of high school GPA as a placement tool into the next year, alongside, again, not in lieu of, but alongside ACT scores and other metrics we use to place. That's going to help students who either don't have access to the ACT, or again, we've seen some administrative challenges with ACT getting scores processed, and it buys us more time to really understand the long-term effects of the use of GPA and whether indeed that is the proper placement for students who are going right into college level courses or need learning support. It'll give us time to let those long-term outcomes play out. Next slide, please, Carol, which I think might end it. Yeah. So members of the board, that's an early look at just the first semester of evidence we've seen, which again is suggestive to us that the pilot is working, and we're asking for your approval to extend that into the 2021-22 academic year.
Good work. Thank you. Questions or comments for Russ? If there are none, and
you know that I'm going to have one, so.
I'm glad you're there. I would have been disappointed if you didn't.
Well, I was going to try and give everybody else a chance first, but so Russ, to me, this is fascinating work. So several questions. One, it's interesting to me that the GPA is that consistent across all high schools. So, for example, for the failing schools, the bottom 5% of high schools, are you finding, or have you been able to do any work to see if a GPA of 3.6 in a failing high school, it is indicative of anything? Do they perform just as well when they get there? Do you have any data on that?
Regent Gill, that is part of this eventual research effort that's unfolding, and we hope to get to that. Obviously, that's a methodologically complex thing to look into, but it's a proper question. It's a good question. So not a whole lot so far on that. We do hope to look at that in the future. And I would say, even if that GPA might mean different things based on the quality of the high school, it probably still tells us more than the ACT. Again, in the aggregate, which, as you know, is 4 hours on a Saturday morning. So something we are going to look into and hope to bring you more evidence and more observations from as this research unfolds.
Yeah, I think that's good. Can you talk a little bit about the circumstance of where you dropped the cut to 2.8 from 3.6?
Yeah, so those three, and the three colleges who are operating under that sort of pilot within a pilot are Chattanooga State, Nashville State, and Southwest. And it's really at the request of those schools who were looking at their own data, their own local conditions, their own pipeline information with their local high schools, and just felt that they wanted to experiment with a different cut score. And actually, from an evaluation standpoint for the staff and the board, it's a good thing because now we've got sort of two test cases going on to really see which GPA really works in practice. We've got a lot of historical work that says that 3.6 probably works, again, in the aggregate, but it might be very different campus by campus, and this allows us to explore that.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting study to see the results of that. What do you know? What percent of the high school graduates are in the 3.6 GPA? I mean, in my high school, or the guys I ran around with, you wouldn't have had anybody enrolling in your community college, and we never got there. But you know, maybe those things have changed. How big is that pool?
Short answer, Regent Gill, is I don't know. I have to get back to you on that. And if my colleagues happen to know, they can put the answer in the chat because they may know it off the top of their heads. But we have about 1,300 students in the pilot that had that GPA of 3.6 and above, and then another 1,000 or 1,500 or so that have that 2.8 to 3.6. So that gives you some sense of the scale here. But I think your question is broader about just the numbers of our students who have that GPA or higher. And I'd have to look more deeply at the preparation data to really get a good answer for you. But I can follow up.
That's okay. I'm just curious. I think it's an interesting project. I look forward to hearing more from it.
Thank you. Yeah, we will be bringing you a lot more on this. We hope to bring you a lot more results once we really have this fully baked here in the months and years ahead.
Regent Gill, if you're ready, do you want to offer the motion to approve the continuation of this important pilot?
I offer the motion to continue this important pilot.
I thank you, sir. And a second?
I'll second. It's Tom.
Thank you, Tom White. Any further discussion or questions of Dr. Deaton on this? If not, to our board secretary, Ms. Mason, let's call the roll.
Thank you. Regent Apple.
Aye.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent George.
Aye.
Regent Gill.
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hatch.
Aye.
Regent McEllier.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Wamp.
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Excellent. And Russ, I think it's apparent the board is interested in hearing more. So thank you. So
Yes, ma'am.
as I call on Dr. Chachak, I know your name as well as I know my own, and it's not coming out this morning. Dr. Hollins, Tashaka. Oh my goodness. As I call on Dr. Hollins, since we are celebrating our successes today, I want to point out one of her recent successes. She has been selected by the Association for Career and Technical Education as a fellow for their post-secondary leadership success program. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We're very proud of you and for you. So thank you.
And I know that the name does stomp quite a bit. And I always remind folks, if you were ever or currently a fan of Shaka Khan, that may help with remembering my name. But thank you so much for recognizing my latest achievement with ACTE. I just kicked off this week with some of those leadership responsibilities and tasks, and very excited about this journey over the next year. So again, I thank you all for your support and for your recognition of that achievement. I have quite a bit to bring to you this morning, And I have worked with Dr. Deaton and some others on the academic affairs team to make sure that we are meeting the timeline as set out. So again, good morning to you, Madam Vice Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Tidings, and all those of the board. The Office of Academic Affairs has carefully reviewed the 14 technical college new program proposals and 147 program proposals to add hybrid delivery. These proposals are being presented for the board's review and approval. Implementation proposals for each program can be found in your board materials. The proposals are as follows. Carol, if you could go to the next slide. So we have slides 2 through 8 here that will list the 14 new program proposals. Athens is proposing to implement the pre-practical nursing dual enrollment at their main campus. And then we've got Elizabethton implementing the building construction technology at their ETSU offsite campus. Harriman is proposing to implement 3 new programs: computer operation systems and network technology, pre-practical nursing dual enrollment, and then the transportation distribution and logistics program. Hohenwald, power sports technology program at their main campus. Knoxville, pre-practical nursing dual enrollment at Alcoa High School. Livingston, pre-practical nursing dual enrollment, farming operations technology at their Monterey High School. New Bern, diesel power equipment technology, truck driving and welding technology. All of these are relocations from their transportation campus to their main campus. And then we have Ripley proposing to implement the barbering program at their main campus, and Tcat Chevyville implementing the pre-practical nursing dual enrollment program. This next slide covers the 147 programs seeking to add hybrid delivery mode to their existing program inventory for, again, coming before you for review and approval. The details of each of these proposals can be found in your board material. Recently, the Council on Occupational Education, the accreditor, informed institutions of the option to have programs approved as both traditional and hybrid instruction. These proposals for hybrid modality will not impact any physical resources, personnel, space, or equipment at the institution. COE defines a hybrid program as one that makes available less than 50% of the instructional hours offered in a distance education format. And recently, as recent as the end of January, COE made the decision and informed their institutions that the temporary waiver that was issued last spring for distance education instruction would expire as of June 30, 2021. So that is, I wanted to give some background around the reason why we have so many actions coming before you all to add hybrid delivery. And so if we move on to slide 10, we also have some program modifications, 6 of those that are coming before you all. And this, between the 6 modifications, the 147 proposals to add hybrid and the new program proposals, all of these will allow our technical colleges to be more responsive to the students, business, and industry. And with that, I respectively request the board's approval and available to answer any questions that the members may have.
Questions for Dr. Hollins? This is a lot. But I think it's really indicative of how our schools try to be responsive to significant.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. Any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve, and I apologize for so. I'm looking for a motion to approve. Yes.
It's Tom. I'll move for approval.
Thank you, Regent White.
Danny, I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? If not, Sandra, let's call the roll, please.
Thank you. Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Duckett,
Aye.
Regent George,
Aye.
Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Regent McEllier,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Wonk,
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hollins, and all the best in your fellowship. Well, hopefully one of these days we'll all be together again where we can actually hear more about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Emily, can I add one thing, please?
Oh, yes.
This Miles, the one, the Tcat Elizabethan Construction Tech, that's actually going to be a Northeast States campus, not ETSU's campus. I don't know if that matters, but just thought I would add that.
Okay. Oh, very good.
Not down Kingsport. It's not the Allendale campus where ETSU is.
Yeah, and if I could, I'd also like to add that we need to give Miles a big round of applause for that, because it is due to the hard work he's doing with that industry in that area that we have this program coming up and running. So thank you to Regent Burdine for all of your great work in that area.
Thank you.
So, no, you have really taken the lead, Chancellor. I'm glad you mentioned that.
And thank you, Regent Burdine. I will follow up with Tcat Elizabethan to make sure that we have properly documented the exact offsite campus that the Building Construction Technology Program will be delivered in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Regent Burdine knows it well. So thank you all. Brian, the next three items are yours. They will all three require roll call votes. So everyone just please hang in there with us. A couple of these I think we have heard about at committee chairs meetings. So Brian, take us through and so we can make the right decisions on these important issues this morning, please, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And you're exactly right. The Programs for Minors on Campus policy is something we discussed in depth at the committee chairs meeting. The high points of some of what we discussed is on there. This would have been a consent agenda item, except that following some changes at the president's meeting, you did not have at the committee chairs meeting when we sent out the materials, the final version of the policy. So the final version of the policy represents what we discussed at the committee chairs meeting in terms of background checks being required for when they're required, including specifically when an employee sponsors a program out, or rents a space. Otherwise, it's exactly what you saw in the committee chairs and what we talked about. So I don't have anything additional to add unless anybody has any questions. We may be ready for a vote.
Anything for Mr. Lapps? If not, we do need a motion to approve this new policy with regard to programs for minors on campus.
This is Hatch. Motion to approve.
Thank you, sir. A second?
Apple, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, Sandra, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Duckett,
Aye.
Regent George,
Aye.
Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Regent McEllier,
Aye.
Regent Powers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye, and Sandra, next time you should do it backwards just to make it more interesting.
Regent Womp,
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Back to Brian Lapps. I think we have a ministerial duty to handle on this next change to the bylaws.
That is correct, Madam Vice Chair. Members, you will recall that in December, this came before you because a bylaw revision has to be announced at one meeting and then enacted at the next meeting. So the only two changes on this are to change the name of the Committee on Economic and Community Development to the Committee on Workforce Development to reflect updated terms. And next, we have revised the version of Robert's Rules of Order to reference the most recent version.
So any questions for Mr. Lapps? If not, may we have a motion to approve these two revisions to the bylaws, please?
This is Garland, so moved.
Thank you, Danny. And I heard another voice.
Second, Duckett.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? All right, Sanja?
Well, to take Regent Varlin's suggestion, I will go from the last alphabet.
That just makes me faster. That's all.
Regent White.
And I'm ready for you, but aye.
Regent Womp.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Regent McEllier.
Aye.
Regent Hatch. Regent
Aye.
Hatch. Thank
Aye.
you. Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith.
Aye.
Regent Gill.
Aye.
Regent George.
Aye.
Regent Duckett. Regent Duckett.
Oh, excuse me. It took me longer to get off mute since you started at the other end and not at the front. Aye.
Thank you. Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Apple. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. It does give one a different perspective on the alphabet, I have to say. Oh, and finally, as discussed at our committee chairs meeting, our council is asking us to consider a resolution that would delegate authority for these upcoming rulemaking hearings.
Exactly. This is primarily a ministerial routine function, and the board will still retain authority to approve rules and revoke this delegation at any time. So unless there are any questions, I'll rely on what we discussed earlier this month, being the presentation.
Any questions or concerns for Brian? If not, once again, we will need a motion to approve this delegation of the rulemaking hearing.
Varlin, so moved.
Okay, we'll take Apple as a second, Mary Lou. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, Sanja, one more time with feeling. Let's call the roll.
Regent Apple.
Aye.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent George.
Aye.
Regent Gill.
Aye.
Regent Goldsmith.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hatch.
Aye.
Regent McEllier.
Aye.
Regent Powers.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Womp.
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all very much. That completes our business for the morning. Chancellor, any further announcements?
No, again, just thanks to everyone for bearing with us today. Congratulations to all of our SOAR winners today. We look forward to re-recognizing you when we are in person for SOAR next year, and I know that we will be. Thanks to everybody for all of your hard work. This was a lot of information today, and you bore with us quite well, so thank you.
Well, and Chancellor, I just want to say to you, it all starts at the top, and none of this would be possible without your leadership. So we thank you as well. So you mean a great deal to this system. The R word, retirement, came up earlier, and that is not in your vocabulary, I know.
You can't leave before I do.
Okay.
I just want to wish everybody a happy Greek Independence Day today. So if you have any friends that are Greek, you need to send them a happy emoji.
Thank you, Regent Vaughn.
200th anniversary.
Wow.
On the turds.
Oh, how is your family celebrating today?
Well, literally, my husband had on this very awful, obnoxious tie that looked like the flag on the front of his shirt. And then I fixed Greek salad and spanakopita, and he ordered Greek pizza, and I made desserts and sent early this morning and sent it to work with him. So they're celebrating.
Wow.
Yes. He takes this very seriously.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So that's great. Well, this has been an emotional morning in so many ways. We've had bittersweet moments, we've had happy moments, but at the end of the day, it has been a day to get some work done, to recognize the challenges that are still before us, but also, as I said earlier, to celebrate our successes and the fact that we are a family here at the Board of Regents system, the college system of Tennessee. So thanks to you all. We will next be together on June 1 for committee chairs and for our quarterly meeting on Thursday and Friday, June 17 and 18. And once again, as the Chancellor said, to all of our SOAR Award winners, to the Tcat at Shelbyville, to Columbia State Community College, congratulations. You make us all proud. If there is no other business to come before this board, please stay safe, watch the weather today, get your vaccine, and we will stay in touch. If there's no objections, we stand adjourned, friends. Thank you.
You guys.